In this episode of the Denoise podcast, we're going to break down vertical soap operas,
H&M using AI versions for its models,
and if Anthropic's Claude model is actually thinking. Let's get into it. Hey, Adi, good to see you.
Good to see you. How was your weekend?
Good weekend. Another week, another AI model launch. We're not going to get into it this time, but I saw this morning that Runway launched Gen-4.
Nice.
I mean, it's sad to say at this point, but it's like, I was looking up like, okay.
It's going to be better.
Bigger, better, faster, looks more realistic. But I don't know what specific updates, if it has any more camera control or actor control, but outputs looked really impressive, as usual, which is sort of now the like standard as like a new video gen model comes out. You're like, yeah, looks really good.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, that's better than the last previously amazing model.
Yeah.
Right? So there's like an arms race and the iterations are like weekly.
Yeah. I also wonder too, is the timing with it coming out before NAB, which is like a big like camera industry announcement, coincidence, or just be like, oh, give something
I don't know
for
if
people to talk about?
Runway is even aware of NAB. that's our world for sure. But up in the Bay Area in the AI developer crowd, not sure if that really resonates.
Yeah, I remember last year was when Sora first, like the clips were teased and that was like the talk of the show.
Was that only a year ago?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The spaceman clip and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that lady walking through the Tokyo street.
Yes, yeah.
And I remember seeing that for the first time. I was like, wait, video can be generated too? Like, it was such a light bulb moment.
Right, where it was like, it looks good. Like, I think I first saw it and I was like, that's not real, right? And that's just a clip. And it was like, or a sample clip. Right. I was like, nope. That was generated.
Especially the lady was wearing like a leather jacket and the physics on the jacket.
Yeah, shot on the train and you could see the reflections of the model in the reflections of the train. Yeah. And it was like, oh, wow, that's a big moment. Which
only
now
in
we're
12 months.
Yeah, now we're just like, yeah, whatever. Now we're like, Sora's the like mid model. Yeah. Like it's not even that good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, other random story too. I remember when we were like talking about Grok and I was like, oh, did you know that XAI and Grok is technically not part of X? It's a separate company.
Yes.
And then it turns out, well, now it is, but Uno reverse, XAI bought X. So now X, formerly Twitter, is owned by XAI, the AI company.
Do you know what the reasoning for that was?
I think it wasn't because the X stock was taking a dump or something to I think it was just like financial
it's just
shifting around.
A funny money situation. Yeah. That's what it felt like to me.
That's what I thought. All right, let's get into actual stories. Okay, the first one. So when I was at some holiday networking industry events and I was talking to some people that were like on the camera teams and kind of like just the vibe in Hollywood in general is just like, are you working on shows? And if you are working, you're pretty lucky to be working on stuff because not a lot of stuff is filming right now. But the general thing I kept hearing of people who were working on shows, like 3 different people, it was like, yeah, I've been working on these vertical soap operas. And this was the first time I heard about this. And I was like thinking like, oh, like vertical, but are they like filming like open gate or something wide and they'll crop it, but they have like, the wide shot to like repurpose for other things. And they're like, nope, we turned the camera sideways, we recorded vertical. It's just vertical. That opened me to a world of digging into what are these things? Yeah. And it is a big industry now.
Yeah.
It started in China, I believe, shortly after COVID.
Their version of TikTok.
It's TikTok-ish, but these are like produced 90-second stories with a hook, but then to continue the story, you got to pay up. So it is a soap opera-y format with kind of crazy stories of like, they usually fall into genres of like werewolves or like rich tech billionaires. Or
it's all the tropes that are in like romance novels.
Yes, or that were on soap opera.
Like telenovelas and stuff.
Yeah. And so there are a handful, so this has taken off in China. It is, the vertical series market in China exceeded $5 billion in 2023, with projections suggesting it could reach $13 billion by 2027.
I'm not surprised that for a second, because in China, the vertical content platforms have direct, like Amazon-like shopping built into them. Mm-hmm. So it's not just ad revenue, it's like product sales revenue and all tied in.
It's a lot less friction.
Yes.
Because it's a mega app, or I forgot what they call it, but it's a type of app that we don't have here because there's too many monopolies and paywall productions.
Yeah, we have a fragmented ecosystem where theirs is more unified because the state probably controls the whole thing.
They've adapted the model here. The big company here is Real Short, but there are a handful of other companies, DramaBox, Short TV, Serial Plus, Flex TV. And the model is basically, you get I've seen them now as some ads. You get an ad with like the first 90-second clip that is very much designed to hook you. It's a very kind of, cheesy soap opera-y thing, woman in distress, or like she doesn't know that, he's really a billionaire. And like, the guy's getting treated like crap, but he's like, secretly a millionaire. Some kind of crazy story that gets you hooked. Yeah. And then if you want to continue the story, you got to pay up. And you can sometimes pay as much as like $40, I believe, to continue the story, which I think the total...
Per month or per content?
I think it's either way. I think some of them work off like a token system. So you kind of buy credits and then you can choose which stories you want to continue. Users typically purchase digital coins or passes to access additional episodes with the cost to watch an entire series ranging between $20 to $40. Many viewers end up spending $10 to $20 weekly or up to $80 monthly. So you pay up to watch the rest of the story. They got you hooked.
It reminds me of games.
And I couldn't find info on this, but I believe I talked to someone and they believe that the people behind some of the people that developed this, their background is in mobile gaming. And that is all about building out these ads. They've like perfected the
digital
mobile ad
revenue
market where you see the like kind of playing the game thing and they get you hooked in and they know their customer acquisition costs and how to turn it around and get you addicted. Same exact psychology, same exact backbone, but with video instead of
in a lot of ways, that's way easier, right? 2D video as a infrastructure pain point is a much smaller pain point than like rolling out a 3D game and updating the characters and making sure it's running on all devices. Video will way more efficiently run on all devices. It's a brilliant move on their part. And also the fact that they're not charging you real money. They're charging you some digital currency, which has probably a weird conversion rate. So you don't know how much.
It's hard to do the math in your head.
Is that $2 or $20? I don't know. I'm just going to buy it because I really want this show.
Right. Because if you're like, would you pay $20 to watch like a soap opera episode? You'd be like, no, what? $20 for a soap opera? Right. But if it's like, your credits and the thing and it all renews.
Like, I really want to know how this ends. I'm going to spend 20,000 credits or whatever.
Yeah. A lot easier lift. I mean, I'm kind of rooting for this because it's like, hey, production's happening. People are shooting this stuff. Obviously, they're cranking it out a lot faster than a regular TV show. I couldn't get any numbers on like budget or production time frame. I mean, I think it's in the range of like you could shoot a whole series, like an hour long content in a week. Probably you're in the range of like $100,000. That was some numbers I heard.
Any virtual production, any volume
I feel like that's something that could work with this if they were. I think it's a combo too of they produce some in house and then some, work with vendors to produce additional content. I'm sure there's a whole science and methodology of the scripting. And the teasers and the hooks.
Yeah, that's probably very formulaically written out and very templatized.
I would imagine that's in-house because that's got to be very specific. And then the production aspect, either do it in-house or source it out. But yeah, this feels like something where if they were doing it in-house and they just built some virtual production studios, like that would speed up cranking.
Like these guys are so lean and they're from the gaming world that I don't think they even know the power of virtual production yet. Like the sphere hasn't sort of caught up to them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not. And then the crazy thing too is what they're making. In an article, Rolling Stone had a big article about them. And so Real Short, which is one of the big ones, founded in 2022, they've had more than 30 million downloads and they generate over $10 million in revenue a month.
Wow. That's a big business.
Yes.
Do you know if this stuff is shot in and around LA or elsewhere?
I'm sure all over, but I think a lot does happen in LA. I wonder why the numbers work for them in LA if they're just able to get lower studio costs. If it's just
probably non-union people.
Non-union, easier actors. There's a lot of actors here not working as much.
It's not. Concentration of B, C list actors here is incredibly high.
We talked about this before. Like the talent is here.
Yes.
Like everyone is here. You can easily pull together.
Also goes back to my vacuum principle, which is like anytime you have a vacuum of work in a resource rich environment, other work will come in and suck it up.
Yeah. And this could just be taking advantage of everyone's kind of looking for some stuff to do. And so you can punch above your weight and get some talent that would probably be booked elsewhere, but they're not. And so you can bring them on board.
I'm sure some pro capable DP will work at half or a third of their rate because they're not working right now. They're like, hey, we're getting amazing production quality.
I wonder if you got to make sure you have a DP that also knows how to move. Because it's you could get a big
flip the camera
DP,
vertically,
and that too. You can get a big DP, but if they're used to big sets, it's sometimes it works counterintuitive to what you're trying to do. If you're no, we need to move. We need to move.
Yeah, we throughput.
Yeah, and so also obviously this reminds us of the attempt to do this that did not go very well. Quibi. Rest in peace, Quibi.
Yeah, Jeffrey Katzenberg was always at least 5 years ahead in all of the big things he's done. Other than DreamWorks, he helped develop Pitch, which was a video sharing platform with high social interactions, which then it was too early because the phones weren't able to run it at the time. And the internet connections were not up to video levels at the time. But then just a couple of years later, Vine came out, and Vine lived and went, and then TikTok, right? But Jeffrey was like 5 years ahead. And with Quibi as well, Quibi was being concepted in 2018, 2019, came out during the pandemic, as we covered in one of the episodes. It went, and now we're seeing that format and that platform all over again.
Yeah. I think there's some things that they got wrong with Quibi. Like, I think they were in the right space of thinking like, yes, short form content for vertical phones, producing that would work. Well, first, I think they raised way too much money. And so they had way too much money and trying to like produce and force stuff onto people. And
he was
didn't
really
have enough,
good
like,
at that, right?
time to like figure out what works. And they had like $2 billion, I think they raised.
Yeah, and they had Meg Whitman on, who was the ex-CEO of eBay. Really powerful, executives on the board and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they had the right names. Yeah, I think they were producing highbrow content. Which, Real Shorts and these other ones, I think, cracked where it's like, no, you need just
disposable content.
Yeah, the soap opera-y, the stuff that's just like, is cheesy, gets you hooked, hits that like, lizard brain part of us and like gets you on. And it's not like trying to be a Netflix on the phone. It's just be like an elevated soap opera on your phone.
A game.
Yeah. Also, I believe they did spend a lot developing their original tech, which their whole thing was they definitely shot, I think, open gate or some sort of square format. And they built the tech where it could frame every episode worked framed vertically and framed horizontally. And you had to use the Quibi app, and no matter how you rotated it, it would adjust the framing. Yeah.
I believe it was able to find the center of interest within a 16:9 frame using the vertical window.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like very sophisticated for its time.
Unnecessary.
Unnecessarily.
As we've like realized too, where it's like, well, people are fine just watching a vertical, and if you're making for the phone, it's got to be vertical. And like they spent a lot on this. It was their original IP to develop this technology. Unnecessary.
Yeah, and when Quibi first launched, there was a big press conference, and literally like every A-lister in Hollywood signed up for whatever show. Like you had like Ben Stiller and so, just a bunch of big names. Just having them sit there was probably costing money, right? Like, so it was like burning money from the very beginning of it.
And you have to make it work. And it's like, it was first out too. I think also the idea of people paying for, like Netflix prices, but for something to watch on your phone that at the time you were getting for free on TikTok or
and even in
Instagram Reels.
Right before the pandemic, the box office still wasn't as dead as it is today. Like there was still a very healthy box office, and so people are like, "Wait, should I watch Brad Pitt in a cinema in a big theater or on my phone vertically?" That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
but now it makes total sense.
Do you think so Real Shorts and these other companies have found some success in this, but with the soap opera format, do you think there's like other genres that could work in the future for just being like fully dedicated to being short?
I mean, I hate to say this because I have kids, but absolutely, there's a lot of disposable level animation and animated content that could be served to kids in a gamified way. Stuff like Coco Melon or Blippi, like a lot of the YouTube stuff, you can chop it up into micro episodes and have the parents pay for the credits.
That's something,
that would be an easy cash grab.
Would that work? I mean, what would the advantage be versus all the stuff they could get on like YouTube Kids? Or
it's more automatically fed. It's frictionless, and so they don't have to look and search for it. There's no ads. They're just consuming at a higher rate per day or whatever.
I feel like also like this is also probably where the play of like AI generated characters or AI generated content or something else.
User generated avatars. So you can have a complete.
Your kids can be in the film in the short, in the cartoon.
So like take 3 pictures of you, and now that goes into like a storyline that has a third character. And they are the third character.
Crazy amount of privacy laws and child. What's the? I forgot the specific act, but what's the one that prevents under 13 or without?
I don't know the name, but yes.
There, where like all the social media platforms can't have users under 13. And there's like a law. But I'm thinking about it.
I'm glad there is a law.
I'm glad about that too. But I'm thinking
that could get out of hand.
This route, it's like uploading photos of your kids. Maybe not the best idea for an app targeting young kids.
And there's so many rules and regulations, as rightfully so, around child actors in general. Like how their likeness could be used, how long they work, and all that stuff.
The next story does tie into AI actors. And, when you mentioned child actors, I'm thinking like, well, maybe there's AI versions of them in the future. But aside from that, that was a random thought. The next story is H&M is using AI versions of existing models with their permission to create AI avatars of them to load them up and use them in additional campaigns without having to call the actor back to do additional photo shoots.
And there is, I read through the articles. it seems like the models are okay with it.
Yeah, so they're creating digital twins of the models with the models' permission. The models are okay with it, and H&M is being upfront about like that they're using AI and that they're putting this campaign out. They said that they're expecting that, you know, some people might not appreciate this or approve of this, but they did say like it's kind of a learning process. We want to like put this out there and see what happens. Their reasoning was fashion. There's just tons of marketing assets they need to make. This could be a benefit, obviously, for them where they can create additional assets with the model.
Yeah, in a much more controlled setting, they could have better reviews of the stuff.
Or the new clothing or something. And then when they are loading up this digital twin of the model who is a real person, the model gets paid. I don't think they're getting paid the same rate as if they were to be called in for a photo shoot, but they are making additional revenue off of their digital twin being used.
Yeah.
And, you know, meanwhile, they can go do a fashion show or some other revenue opportunity.
I don't know, Joey. It feels like this is the end of the line for a lot of fashion models.
Yeah, part of the thought is like, okay, well then if you're like a top model and you have a digital twin, then it's like, okay, good for you. But then if you're booked and they call up the digital twin versus calling up another model, that's less work. The model's not getting work.
Yeah.
The photography crew that would have been called up to do the photo shoot is not getting called up because it's being generated.
Well, the fact that H&M went all the way through and actually have output that's out in the public ether that's AI generated tells me that they're fully committed to every little piece on the back end. So they have probably consultants and tech companies that are generating this stuff and full control over the generation, which means as these models are getting better, I mean, we just talked about ChatGPT's image generator, like it's so easy to now do consistent characters, pose them specifically, swap out outfits. Like, I don't see why you would need models after this sort of transition period is over.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of grim, but I mean, this is the world we're living in.
Aside from you, like, you know, lean into that, you know, if everyone zigs, you zag. So like if everyone starts leaning into AI generated models, whether they're based on real people or, you know, I'm thinking like, well, in the future, it's like, well, why would you even base it on a real person? Just make them up.
I think from a brand to another brand, it'll be different strategies. So for example, like H&M is going, you know, the synthetic route, but a brand like a higher end brand, like Louis Vuitton or Gucci, you know, they want to still use real flesh and blood humans because that is just their philosophy and they believe in the output of real people. And so like, I think from brand to brand, you're going to see either a hybrid approach or fully synthetic or fully flesh and blood.
Yeah. And they lean into it. Maybe they lean into more in-person activations or in-person things happening with real models, real people that they film and make their brand materials out of. Yeah. Something that's like, you can't do that with it, or you can't like fake the reality, or you can't fake the like real event.
Sure. Yeah. There will be edge cases where you absolutely need a real person. But like 90% of the stuff, like if you look at Target, walk around the Target and look at all the, you know, the images of people wearing.
Yeah, like the catalog-y kind of photo shoots.
Like that stuff.
And then catalog models are like a genre of models. Yeah. You know, where it's just like, you just got to crank through, wear a bunch of outfits because they have like thousands of outfits you got to put on, and it's for the white wall or the catalog. It's not a high couture fashion shoot. Yeah. I mean, like, I think all roles, you know, that's probably going to be one of the earlier ones to lean on AI more, or just AI completely replaces it. Yeah, because AI is so good at scale and automation, right? I mean, I can see the advantage of this, or the argument of like benefit where you can combine both, you know, personalization and, you know, if you're trying to create social media assets at scale or something, but being able to do something that's like personalized for the potential where the ad's getting served. That's been the holy grail for digital fashion for over a decade. They've been trying it with digital humans for a long time. This feels like the first, a case where like a company's being outspoken about it, you know, like, hey, we're using this AI, we're kind of like try to learn from it. And this is presumably also, we're talking about still photos. How soon do you think this is going to go for videos, for commercials, for actors? Not for a while. Like, and when I say that, my time scale is in months, not days. For a while, like it's until Q4 of 2025. I think by early 26 or so, we're going to start to see some fully end-to-end videos that are generated with AI that's used commercially. By that, I mean companies are using it to generate sales. Again, this is a transitionary period where the models sort of know that their replicas are being created. They're still getting a wage from H&M. But then who knows if they're going to hire the next wave of models as these models age out
so to speak.
Yeah. One interesting thing from this article on BOF, the website, to create the twins, H&M takes numerous pictures of the models in motion from different angles and in different lighting to capture them down to their birthmarks and movement patterns, making sure it has enough data to generate an accurate twin. It works with a technology partner called Uncut on the project.
But they don't have to. You know what I mean? Like, they're doing this as a creative choice to generate the model with the same birthmarks, the same hair, the same
Yeah, like
unique
they are making
markers.
a digital twin of a real person.
But they don't have to. They could just literally make a synthetic human that is no longer like anybody on the
Right. And also, I mean, there are famous 3D generated influencers. Like there are big accounts on Instagram.
I mean, if you look at the social influencer space with Instagram, and we saw the Lil Miquela rise, right, over the last 10 years or so. And Lil Miquela's still the same age over the last 10 years or so because she's fully synthetic. I believe she's
no scandals, no drama.
No drama, right? There's no boyfriends. Well, there's digital boyfriends.
Not going to be on TMZ with some paparazzi shots.
And she's owned by a company named Brud, B-R-U-D. They're based here in downtown LA, super elusive. I had a chance to actually do a Lil Miquela shoot.
Oh, really?
So I know it was at Verizon. So I know all about this little company. And, Lil Miquela is designed by like a group of 4 or 5 people. So they're not replicating one person. It's a committee deciding what her personality is, what she should look like, what drama she should have, what clothes she should wear. Incredible. So apply that same thing now. Instead of using an Unreal Engine based character, you're using AI generated character. There is an influencer called Fit Aitana. I believe her name is Aitana Lopez. You can look her up on Instagram, and she's about 358K followers. And I think over the last few months that this came up and is having a meteoric rise in the Instagram space. Yeah.
And it's not like a secret that they're trying to say this is a real person. Like it's known this is an AI character.
Yeah.
And people are still like, okay.
They're like, yeah, that's cool.
I mean, yeah, how long until there is like a famous synthetic actor or a CG actor or a AI actor or actress that it doesn't exist. And like, people are like, I don't care. I'm a fan of this actress.
What if Brud releases an AI character who does movies, goes on Reel Shorts and does a couple of shows, and then has a whole social life on Instagram, and then does product placement and ads in H&M? That could totally happen.
Yeah.
They could have digital rights to the whole thing.
Yeah. One thing that, talking about the digital twins, or even just if you make a synthetic character, but then you're licensing it out to the model for another company, to, Coca-Cola, where it's like, okay, we want to use your model and we're going to like generate some ads with it, with the Coca-Cola brand. And also going back to like tracking the data. This is something that came to mind, and, maybe we can dig into this in the future more, but remember the whole, NFT craze and all of that stuff, and
trying to forget it.
Did you buy some apes that lost all their value?
Yes.
Yeah. So the NFT craziness, got buried in expensive ape images and like, $1 million JPEG photos and all that stuff. But there's some really interesting stuff.
I agree.
In the technology that I thought was going to be more relevant. I still think it will come back, especially with this type of stuff with like AI and like what your sources are going in, what we talked to last time, where it's like being able to track the data that goes into the model.
Yeah, it's the blockchain authenticity stuff.
Yeah, and the smart contracts and the stuff like that, where like that whole smart contract idea I thought was very appealing, because it's like, okay, well, if you make a movie and you want to sell the digital copy of it, but then build in some sort of like the NFT would it enable you to build in smart contract features where it's like, okay, if you use a clip, from my movie or use something from the song and you sell a derivative of that, it's still trackable. So there's a smart contract where it's like, okay, if your product is sold, smart contract triggers were based
on
whatever we set or whatever I agreed to or we both agreed to, then it's like, but it automatically tracks like, oh, you sold it for $10, but I have a 20% cut of that. So then that automatically comes back to me.
Right.
And it was just like a digital way to kind of verify like,
and I think that it was automated too, right?
Yeah, it's automated. It's all part of this, blockchain, and it's a little bit above my head, but it was trackable enough where you could build these smart contracts with digital assets. And, after you sell the copy, you can still see what's happening to it and have permission and rules for like what you can and can't do with it. I think that will eventually come back.
I agree.
Because that was very smart and clever, and that got completely buried by
bathing apes.
Yeah, the apes and the JPEGs. But I think especially it's a good use case too when we're talking about digital twins, or you start doing more stuff with AI and being able to like track like training and usage. I think it's going to come back.
Every AI image generation should create like a blockchain entity underneath it that's tracking the progress of where it's going, how it's going, what IP is looking at it, and then it should all be there in the metadata, right? And then like something like Aitana Lopez, you can take her photo and share it with your friend, but if that image has some metadata, then it kind of knows, like it's just naturally building a giant, massive data table, which is more valuable than the character itself, like how it's spreading through society.
Yeah, or how it's being used.
Yeah.
And also maybe we should win an award too for mentioning both blockchain and AI
Here
in
on
the
Denoised.
same in the same podcast episode.
You heard it here in 2025. Denoised is predicting a merger between NFT blockchain technology and the user-generated AI models that are going to take over our feed.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And our last story. Actually, I did remember one thing that we were talking about Real Shorts and the dramas. I was like, oh, I thought I had this one other thing. I did hear another story from an executive, and we were talking about, YouTube and content creator, the creator economy, and yada yada. And I was like, oh, what are your kids? What do your kids watch? And he's like, oh, well, they watch YouTube on the TV.
Yes.
But just YouTube Shorts. So they
Oh, that's rough. That's very damaging to young brains.
So they're watching the vertical shorts on the big screen TV, on YouTube.
Yes.
So if you think you could predict how we're going to watch movies or what content in the future, I think it's a losing game. Yeah, that was the craziest thing I've heard.
The reason shorts are so effective is because it trains your brain to naturally limit your attention span over time. And so like 30-second TikTok shorts are now too long.
Yeah.
Now it's like 5 or 10. It's like I need a more instant hit of dopamine. Yeah, it's
destroying your ability to just sit and watch a 90-minute movie or something longer.
Yeah, and especially if a young kid at that age, where their neurons are still developing, they get accustomed to that level of dopamine hit at that frequency. This can't be good. But that is how you get the most number of clicks, and the most number of clicks that generate the most revenue, and so on and so forth. It's like a losing battle.
Yeah, sort of. I don't know. I mean, revenue-wise, the YouTube long form is still more profitable.
100%.
If you can get it to work. Yeah.
If the short form kind of funnels you back into a long form piece of content, I think that's the way.
Or you're just such a good short form creator where your shorts are making millions of hits every time, and can make money off that.
Yeah.
All right. And so last story, we've got this interesting paper from Anthropic.
Yes.
What'd you see?
I love papers that come out from the big research firms like OpenAI and Anthropic and Google. I actually take the time to read through them, and it makes me appreciate AI so much more from a technological standpoint, and just how sophisticated these LLMs or these diffusion models are. So Anthropic, with its very Portland, Oregon style and hippie sort of organic branding, released a really cute video, which we'll link to, and you can see here. It goes through the process of how an AI model, LLM model, actually computes the answer. And it's
how it thinks.
Yeah. And surprisingly, they used a lot of medical terms to describe it. Stuff like AI biology, X-ray, obviously neurons and things like that. So it's like splitting a real brain open.
What I thought was interesting too, from just the surface level, was even the people developing these things where are like, we don't really know how it's thinking or how it's working.
Right.
It's a black box. We talked about the black box, but even the people creating this are like, it's kind of a black box to us too. And they're trying to understand how is it figuring out what it does.
So one of the conventional ways of thinking about how something like ChatGPT generates an answer is recursive. So when it generates a word, it goes back and takes that word into account and generates the next word, takes those two words back into account, generates the third word, and so forth.
Yeah, that's what we hear about AI. It's like, oh, it's just a predictive model. It's a very offensive. It's just predicting the next word.
Thinking on the fly and just spitting things out in a very probabilistic manner. Like it thinks 90% of the time this is the right word to put.
Based on the trove of data I have, what is the most likely thing to come next?
Yeah, so
which is what we've understood this to work.
Turns out that's not how Anthropic's cloud works, which is fascinating. So one of the tests that they did was and then we'll screenshot it here, was it gave it a first sentence of a poem and said, go ahead and create a second sentence and make it rhyme with the first sentence. So it said the first sentence that was given was, he saw a carrot and had to grab it. And then Anthropic created a second sentence. His hunger was like a starving rabbit. And you would think that the answer comes in a sequence. It generates his, goes back to hunger, generates was. No. It generated the word rabbit first, prioritized it, and then filled everything in backwards. Guess what?
Right.
That's how...
Right, because it was trying to find, it's like, okay, it's a poem. It's trying to find a word that rhymes with it.
Yeah.
And so it was rabbit, Another option was Habit. I guess in their tests it says green, but I guess that was like thinking that
it just wasn't a strong contender, so it went back to Rabbit.
But this was interesting because normally you'd think like, oh, it predicts it word by word, like you just said, but it's like, no, it's like a human found the word that rhymes first and then went backwards and tried to make a sentence that fits the context where that makes sense.
Yeah, if you look at
ends
like
on Rabbit or
great
Habit.
hip hop rappers, like this is how they build rhymes and bars. Sometimes they'll have multiple rhymes within a sentence, and they'll have those keywords first, and then they'll start to fill in the rest to make sense of it. That's exactly how it's doing it. So way more sophisticated than we thought. Another example they used was just a simple calculation of what is 36 plus 59. Now, in a classical computer, this is going to go through a bunch of logical gates. So it's going to go through an AND gate, an XOR gate, an OR gate, and those are transistors on a giant CPU, right? And then it'll get to the answer. 36 is going to get broken down into binary code. Binary math is going to happen, and then it's going to turn it back into an ASCII, which is going to be 95. So how does Claude do this without knowing math? Well, turns out it's first creating a rough approximation of what it could be. And that is a number that's between 88 and 97. And then with a second pass, it's fine tuning it to get to 95 because it knows the last digit has to be 5. And then they actually ask Claude, how did you calculate 36 plus 59? Said, I added the ones first, 6 plus 9 is 15, carry the 1, then added the tens, 3 plus 5 plus 1 equals 9, resulting in 95. But the crazy thing is, that's not how it did it. I just told you how it did it. It did a rough order of magnitude, and then it fine-tuned it. But when you ask it how it did it, it gave a conventional human answer, how a human would do it.
Okay.
That's both creepy and incredible at the same time.
So like did it a different way and then told the person like, oh, well, I did it the way that you think I should have done it, but I actually didn't do it that way.
Right, because it's probably like, oh, they won't understand how I did it. So I'm just going to give them an explanation that they would understand.
But now it's still not doing actual calculations.
Correct.
Right.
There is no calculator in LLM.
Right. Because this was also an issue too when you're like trying to ask it math questions and then you kind of get weird answers. Or when you're, like how many R's are in strawberry, which
interesting thing is there is also no memory table, right? Like you can do all of this with a massive lookup table. Like every number added by every number could be like billions of results. And it just knows, oh yeah, 36 plus 59, that's memory slot 208, and that is 95. So no, LLMs are not giant memory tables either. How it's competing is what Anthropic is calling multi-step reasoning. So it'll go through sort of one layer of challenges and come to a conclusion that'll get fine-tuned, and then that'll get fine-tuned and so on. So it's like 3 or 4 brains that are interconnected.
So basically, these things are a lot more complicated than we thought, how they're thinking.
Yes, and in fact, yes, they're so complicated that the people that make them are determining ways to figure out how sophisticated they are. So they've created something that is so sophisticated. Now they're going back and figuring out, okay, what exactly is the thought process? And a lot of this has to do with AI alignment. Are you familiar with what that is? So that's how you are able to control the inference in a sort of legally safe manner. So those are the things that, how do I make a bomb? It won't tell you.
Okay, so it's sort of like that's how you kind of build in safeguards in these models.
Exactly.
AI alignment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in order to have amazing AI alignment, you need to know how it's reasoning. And now that's the reason for all of this is they need to figure out how all of this stuff is computed.
But do you think this also maybe shows, because obviously there's sort of a race and implications too of AGI, artificial general intelligence, and like for the chatbots to kind of fully be able to think for themselves. Do you think this is like an indicator of maybe they're closer to that than we thought, or maybe there's more happening than we thought?
I think the first thing you said, they're way more closer than we thought. Here's the other incredible example. They gave Claude a problem in 3 different languages. What is the opposite of small in English, in French, and in Chinese? And the way it computed big or grand is it broke it down into 3 different reasoning. First, it had to reason what small is, and then it needed to know that the user is asking for an antonym, the opposite of the thing that it figured out is being asked. And then it had to have a concept of what large is. And then it generated the answer. So like there's so much happening under the hood, and it's completely counterintuitive to how you and I would think about the problem because it just comes so naturally to us. And yes, you can, of course, program this into like, traditional code, if you will, where it just has a lookup table of millions of terms and verbs and words and adjectives and pull it up very easily. But it's computing this completely on the fly with different reasoning layers.
Also, we should point out that this test was done on the Claude 3.5 Haiku model, which is an older model and their smallest model.
Yeah.
So not 3.5 Sonnet, not 3.7 Sonnet, which is their newest one.
Yeah, I think we're going from like billions of parameters to now trillions of parameters. Like that's the jump that all these guys are making. And so all of this stuff expected to be exponentially more layered and more sophisticated than what I'm describing.
That's why I need the AI factories from NVIDIA that Jensen's talking about.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Wow. Thank you for the breakdown.
Look, I don't understand it all myself, but the articles like this are super helpful.
I appreciate what they did too, because they kind of published a blog post with like a human explanation. They had a really good video that we'll show too. And then they have the full research paper.
For the ultra nerds that need to geek out. Like, I'm good with this article. Like, this is where I stop.
Yeah, and they got some really nice diagrams. So I appreciate that they made a
3 levels
a regular person version. Explain what happened, and then the nerd version. The nerd paper.
I'm sure our audience has all 3.
Yes.
So we'll post all 3.
Well, thanks everyone for watching. As usual, links for everything talked about, the video for Anthropic and everything else will be at denoisedpodcast.com.
We're going to be at NAB, so stay tuned for NAB coverage and let us know if there's any new technology you'd like us to cover.
Yeah, leave in the comments for NAB, anything you're looking forward to. We're going to be covering definitely always a big focus on AI and virtual production and new camera tech, but anything else that's on your radar, let us know and we'll try to dig it up. Yeah, well, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll catch you in the next episode.